Hey everyone, welcome to Structure Demos, brought to you by Cyryn Gaming. Welcome to this brand new series for my channel. It is probably going to end up being a bit of a longer video than usual, but I do hope that you enjoy it. I wanted to take the chance to just show you how to make a full structure from start to finish as opposed to just the bits and pieces I show you in my usual tutorials, but I am still going to keep my tutorial series going as well. So today I'm going to be starting out showing you the type of structure that I started with myself when I was just teaching myself what to do for structure building. I've used this for numerous different things, and this is the base that I then expanded upon to teach myself how to do windows and doors and multi-story structures and even the octagonal lighthouse that I did. Just all of those different ones have came from this foundation that you see on your screen in front of you now, as simple as it looks. So I am going to be showing you this as just a simple cabana over a pool with a tanning floor upstairs. You can see some other examples specifically of when I've used this basic style of structure in the backyard of my burned house video. And the game room structure in the Almost Only a Garden video was also made in this style. I also made a whole bunch of this when I was just cutting my teeth on structure building, but those are all properties that will probably never see the light of a YouTube video, so don't worry about that. And yeah, I think that you guys could really enjoy this, and I hope that you find it useful. As usual, before we get too far into this, I want to give my standard structure building disclaimer that everything that I do for structures can be done with either mods to the game or workshop items, and it will take you less time, less in-game money, and often less resources on your computer as well. However, I personally like the challenge, and I find it incredibly rewarding and satisfying to build these structures myself. So that is why I do this. And if you are interested in doing it too, or even just giving it a try, I hope that my videos can help you. All right, so now that we've got that part out of the way, the most important thing of structure building, believe it or not, is just the pre-planning stage where you kind of think about what you're going to do. So in order to really think about what you want to do, you need to know some basic information about the game. And the first thing we're going to look at is the pool sizes. And if you go in here, these pool sizes are honestly labeled for you until you get down to here. I'm going to be honest, I do not know what these pool sizes work out to. So for the purpose of this demo, just stick to the ones with the sizes listed. So for this particular demo, I'm going to be showing a 4x8. So it's just 4 meters by 8 meters. Okay, well, we know if our structure is going to cover that size, it's got to be at least that big. Awesome, 4x8. Now, if we look over here on our surfaces, we use for our foundation these sports surfaces. If you aren't sure what I mean by a foundation, you might want to check out my first tutorial. So these sports surfaces are listed as 100 centimeters by 100 centimeters. So that's 1 meter by 1 meter. So, okay, we need 8 by 4 of these to cover the pool area. That's a good starting point. Now, a walking path in this game, I like the walking path to be at least 50 centimeters wide, but I actually find that at least 100 centimeters, so the 1 meter is better. So I'm going to use that number, walking path 1 meter, and I'm going to want a walking path all the way around the pool. Now, we're also going to need a buffer. We need this buffer for several reasons, but we need to keep it in mind in our planning because of, first of all, the difference between the length and the width of the bricks that we use to build, which we will go over more when we actually start building. And also, there's just a few other reasons that we'll kind of cover as we go why we will want that buffer. Anyways, I like to consider the 25 centimeters to be minimum for the buffer, but I prefer 50 centimeters because I would way rather have more than enough room than not enough room. So I'm going to want that buffer all the way around as well. And then the final aspect that we need to think about is the stairs leading up to this roof of the roof deck, basically. And the stairs are going to be approximately 50 centimeters wide by 1 meter long per stair. And how many you need is going to depend on how tall you make this structure. And I personally am going to be going with 13 for that number today, which we'll get into in a little bit, but somewhere between 10 to 14. I usually just plan to add the stairs along one of the sides of my structure, so I just add 1 meter to one of the sides. Okay, so now that we know all of those sizes, so the first size that we have to work with is the pool. Remember, the pool that we're working with is 4 by 8. And then we need to add the path all the way around that. So we've got 1 meter on each side. So that means that our total size that we're now working with of a rectangle is 6 meters by 10 meters, 6 by 10. The next thing we want to add to that is our buffer. This buffer is going to take into account the fact that these bricks that we use aren't perfectly 1 meter. It's also going to take into account if we have any discrepancies in placing things. And it just gives us a little bit of extra room to work with because it's usually easier to make something smaller than larger. All right, so we have our minimum building size of 6 meters by 10 meters. Plus our buffer of 0.5 meters on each side. So that will come out to then 7 meters by 11 meters. And then finally, to figure out the final size of our foundation, we want to add the stairs. So we take that 7 by 11 meters. And I said that we're going to just add the stairs along one of the sides. So we're just going to add 1 meter to the shorter side. You can do it along the longer side if that's more convenient for the layout of your design. It does not matter. Just add 1 meter to whichever side you want to lay it out on. So that brings us to a total of 8 meters by 11 meters that we're going to need for our foundation. Great. Now we know the size of our foundation, so now we just have to start laying it out. Usually with a foundation, you want to start in the corner of a yard, but if your design is calling for it to end up in the middle of the yard, you can start it wherever. But you will be starting laying your foundation in a corner of the foundation. So place your first foundation tile, and remember we use our sports paving slabs, and I just use the default color for now. And you're going to remember these are 1 meter by 1 meter, and we need 8 by 11. So I'm going to have the long ways go the way I'm currently facing for this one. So I'm going to go 11 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then our short side needs to be 8. So we've already laid our first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's close to your building. That's okay. That's one of the reasons we have the built-in buffer. You don't have to go all the way to the edge of your foundation, so don't worry about it. And the first thing you want to do, instead of filling it all the way in, just make the rectangle first for your foundation. You will see why in just a moment. So go ahead and finish your rectangle. Now that we have finished our rectangle, see, nice finished rectangle. Don't worry if it seems a little big right now. You will have a chance to fix that in a moment. First, before we do that, we need to assign some colors to some different aspects of our build. So what I do is I use the colors of the sports surfaces to remind me, is this going to be a wall, a window, a door, the stairs, a solid support column, etc., etc. This just makes the whole building process a lot easier. Now, you don't have to use my color coding, but of course that's what I'm going to be showing you with this demo, so just bear with me if you don't like it. Make up your own, doesn't really matter. All right, so I use the white color to signify what will be in the final design, just open, usable, walkable space. It'll be where people go, it'll be where I place furniture, etc., etc. So it's my main foundation color. I then use red to signify a support pillar of some sort. And what I mean by support pillar is I do not want my structure just floating in midair. It's not a look that I want with my designs. I want these to look like they are actually physically possible. I'm not a physicist, so I don't know if I do a good job of that. Although I guess it would be an architect more than a physicist. Either way, I want them to at least look like they are not defying the laws of physics. So I use support pillars and support walls, and I will signify those in red. That's just a solid structure in my builds. I then use this dark gray color to signify stairs. And in this particular build, we don't need more than just those color assignments. But if we were doing windows, doors, and stuff, we would use the rest of the colors as needed. Once you have decided what color you are assigning to each particular aspect of your build, go ahead and plot the color for support columns. And if you're not using support columns because you like the floating look, I guess you're skipping this step. And also, could you please take pictures of your design? I'm kind of curious how a floating design would end up looking. Anyways, pull out your color for your support columns. Now, I personally like to put support columns in the corners. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go around the rectangle really quick, and I'm going to move all of my corners just in. I'm not getting rid of them or selling them because I'm going to need all of these white tiles for filling in the rest of my foundation anyways. So there's no point in getting rid of them. I'm just going to move them for now, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to put in my support columns. Like so. Okay, and after I do the support columns, I am going to figure out where we'll put the stairs. Let's see, I did the stairs over there on the demo, so I'm going to try to stay consistent, and I want the stairs to come down this shorter size here. So again, just like I did with the support columns, I'm just moving the foundation tiles for the stairs area in the center. And then I'm going to fill in this whole side with stairs. Like so. But then if you notice, if my stairs top is up here and I'm imagining this as a finished structure and I'm upstairs now, that would mean when I walk downstairs, there's just a support column just right in my face. And I do not like that. So what I'm going to do, just the design to look better is I'm actually going to move my support column in one. Feel free to make changes like this to your design. And actually, this is what I did on the preview. I actually really kind of didn't like the way it turned out. So instead of just putting it there, I'm going to move it in one more on this particular design. I think I'm going to like it better here. I'm not going to fill in this section. I'm just going to let that section be open. And this is the new outline for my foundation. At this point, now that I've put all my assigned colors in, I'm just going to fill in the foundation with that open space color. Once you have finished laying your foundation, you want it to kind of take a step back. If you have like some stairs where you can get some height to visualize it from, you might want to do that. And you want to try to kind of imagine your final structure and not fall off of your vantage point like I did, ideally. And just, it can be helpful at this point to grab a pool and pretend to place it there just to give yourself an idea of how it's going to fit in the space. And this is your chance, if you want to modify it at all, to make those modifications. Maybe you want to bring this support pillar in so that it's even with that one and take out this row. Totally doable. I'm going to leave it. Why not? Actually, what I'll do is I will bring it in and have an overhang. Best of both worlds right there. There we go. And you're just gonna finalize your foundation. Once you have your foundation laid out and you're happy with the way it looks, you've tested it, you're satisfied with it, the next step is to determine brick orientation. Now, if you have seen my window tutorial video, you'll understand that for windows, orientation of the bricks is super important. It also is for doors. So when I am doing a build with those things, that is normally how I would determine orientation. However, this particular build does not have windows or builds. So I'm actually going to use the stair area to determine my brick orientation. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that all of my bricks are going to line up in the way that my stairs are. And in this case, this is exactly how I want them. I want my stairs to go down like this. It would be very awkward if I tried to make stairs in this area with the brick orientation like this. So this is my brick orientation for this build. I usually try to reference it by like the house on the build to help me remember which orientation I'm using, or I will also remember it as this is the default orientation when you click buy now. So like if I rotate it and I come back in and I click buy now, it goes back to this default orientation. If you don't have stairs or your build could be made in either orientation, sometimes using the default orientation is a good option because it just saves some time and energy throughout the build. So once you know your orientation, you need to figure out what design you want your bricks to look like. I did red and black last time. I'll just do blue and white this time. So this is how I'm going to want my brick. You're going to want to start in a corner. And I put my support columns in the corner, which is what I usually recommend other people do as well. And for the support column, you're actually going to be starting with the 2-tier garden stair instead of the single tier. Make sure that you use it in the color scheme that you want. And when you're choosing your color scheme for your design bricks, the important aspect is actually the sides. The top part matters less unless you plan on walking on it. But you will see it on the stairs, so do keep it in mind. But make sure you're happy with how these edges look, because those are the main parts that get seen during these builds. So we're going to pull out this and we are going to place our first brick in the corner. Now, if you noticed, I currently have this set literally as close to the corner as it will go. This is actually not ideal. You actually want to pull it out one tick each direction from the corner. The reason for this is I've had many builds where as I build up along a fence or along a building, the hitboxes just get really weird as you move up. So by pulling it out a tick or two, you just help prevent that from happening. So then you're going to come in, you're going to move to the single brick. Remember to pick the colors that you're using for your design. And you're going to put your single brick into the cutout area of the two tiers so that you basically create a little solid surface like this. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is the orientation of your single. If you lay it like this, you're going to end up creating a pattern where you see a solid side and then the filler and then the solid side and then the filler. And if that's a look you're going for, hey, go for it. It could be a really cool, interesting look. I personally like my support columns to just be a nice uniform look. So I'm going to tuck it in there like that. And we're going to need quite a few of these singles. So I'm just going to go ahead and pre-buy a stack of them. And one thing you're probably going to notice as I do this build, depending on how much you actually watch me work, is that I line up bricks when I don't need to. It's just a habit that I do. It's really unnecessary and it just wastes time. So if you're not feeling so inclined to sit there and make things perfectly lined up when you're just buying spare stuff, feel free to let it be a little messy. It does not need to be as neat as mine is. So you're just going to alternate buying your two tier and placing your single tier in. So you just want to take your support column as high as it will go. When you have reached that height, which should be 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you're going to come in and we're going to need some more singles. So go ahead and pull out some more singles. And we're going to place them right next to our support column. Don't worry about those other singles sitting off to the side there. We'll use them in a minute. And keep in mind the number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a super important number when you're doing structure builds because 5 is how high you can jump. As I go through this build, you'll see why that is so super important just as I work. So go ahead and finish up your support column and start thinking about how tall you want your final structure to be. You want it to be at least 10 bricks high for comfortable walking underneath. 14 bricks high is the approximate height that the buildings use for their roofs. But for this particular build, I am going to go with 13 because it happens to be my favorite number. So if you count your bricks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I need one more to reach 13, and I need to make sure that I keep the orientation appropriate so that you see it as a solid column for my column. And there we go. We have our first support column. Once you finish your first support column, you're going to start making your first wall. Don't be shy buying these single stairs. You're going to need quite a few of them to complete your build. So you're just going to build up your first wall until you get almost to the end. Basically, you're going to build up this wall until you reach your support column in the opposite corner. So I'm just going to put on some music in the background for you and speed up the video so you can just enjoy some building and listening to music. All right, so when you're about to start your final column, you're going to notice, wait a second, things are not lining up on my foundation anymore. What's up? Well, as I've mentioned before, this is because the bricks are technically longer than 100 centimeters, 1 meter. So slowly things will get out of place, in addition to the fact that we move things away from the wall slightly. All of that adds up to create things that won't line up. Now, that's one of the reasons we added the buffer that we do. So what I usually like to do is go until I can't place on the foundation anymore. So in this case, I can place one more, which means this is where I'm going to end up placing my support column, is where my brick is currently at. So I'm going to finish this second to last column of the wall up to 5. Well, actually, it's the last column of the wall because the support column would be the not part of the wall. And I'm going to finish the column before it so that I end up with something that looks a little bit like this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in and I'm going to pull out the 2-tier again. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on this support column that I did with that support column. But instead of buying new ones, I'm just going to start pulling from my wall previously, because I only need the top brick in order to keep this build going. So I can pull out all of the bricks under the top brick from this giant wall of bricks and just move them around in order to complete my structure. Now, this way is technically slower than the way I covered in my very first tutorial on structure building, where I sell the unneeded bricks. However, I tend to get extremely trigger happy when I am selling bricks in my structure. So I have had far too many instances of selling a brick I didn't mean to. So I have found that by moving the bricks around like this, I cut down significantly on the number of mistakes I make. And technically, it does save a little bit of in-game money to do it this way as well. So this is the way I have chosen to build my structures. But if you are confident that you won't make mistakes, or you just don't care about the in-game money, feel free to fill this entire area with bricks and then just sell the ones that you do not need. So we have finished our second support column. Now we're just going to continue making our walls by moving our bricks to where we need them. Now, it's super important that you do not remove this top brick. That top brick needs to stay in place. So don't move that one, and then just slowly move your bricks into the new areas that they need to be so that you can start building up the roof to your structure. When you reach your original support column, you are going to need to wrap your roof creation around it. All you need to do is, once you've made your stack as high as it'll go on that row, you just start your next row. Instead of here, you just start it right here. You build up your 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you hop on up here, and this is not a big deal to just reach over and finish your column for that row from here. like so. And from this point, you just continue on like you have been doing, making your columns for the rows. And you're just going to fill in row after row. And we're going to speed this up until we get to the stairs section in a moment, which is going to be the next time I need to let you know what to do. So put on some music and just enjoy some building time. Okay, when you have finished making your last column for this row as high as you can, and you're now where your stairs would go, you're going to start the stairs the same way you would a regular column. However, do not take any bricks from your support column. So just pull some other bricks, and just like you normally would, you're going to make your stack of 5. And at this point, you're going to kind of just treat the stairs like you would a normal wall, but you're going to slowly decrease the height of them as we move down. Now, alternatively, you can just leave this section alone, ignore it, and make the stairs all at once at the end. This is a good option if you think that you might get into the groove of building and forget to reduce the height, or if your stairs are not going to be full-size stairs, then you would probably want to wait until the end of the build to add them as opposed to doing it as you build. And side note, if you are not sure what I mean by the full-size stair comment, you definitely want to check out my stairs tutorial, which I believe was tutorial number 2. So I am currently just treating this like I would a normal wall column. Normal open wall, I should say, since a wall would leave it as it was. But when I get to the second from the top square, so this is the top square, this would be the second from the top. This is where I want to end the stairs so that you step up onto the top of the structure. So this square, I actually need to spin around for orientation purposes so that things look good when we're all done. And again, you're going to want to check out the stairs tutorial for good details on why exactly I did that if you're a little confused on it. But other than that, stairs are literally just made the same exact way as you make the walls. So other than that, from this point forward, it is just a matter of pulling bricks over and getting them where you need them to go until you either hit another support column or you run out of bricks. I will be speeding up the video at this point to just continue showing how the build progresses. So at some point, you're going to start to run low on bricks, and you're going to hit a point where you have all of the remaining bricks in a single column. When this happens, just as a little tip, don't take the bottom brick first. Leave it there so that you can line up the brick of the next column that you're starting. Just a little tip I wanted to hand out because it was something that honestly took me probably way too long to figure out. So yeah, there's that. I will be checking back in with you in just a minute when we have actually run out of bricks so that I can let you know what to do then. So eventually you'll reach a point that looks something like this where you only have 2 bricks here, and I told you, don't move the bottom brick. You can actually move the bottom brick up in this case and then use this brick to sit right here. I have found that this is the way that tends to utilize the remaining bricks the best. Now at this point you have 2 options for what you can do. You can either just buy more bricks and continue on. This is the faster option. It does technically end up costing more money for the entire structure in the long run, but it's not that big of a deal. However, what I prefer to do is actually head upstairs and start laying our floor tiles upstairs so that we can just reuse some of our previous tiles that we actually won't need in the final thing. Oh, can I not jump off the ladder? I can't jump off the ladder. In that case, we will buy scaffolding. See, we're learning things together. We all just learned that you can't jump off ladders in this game. Scaffolding, a-okay. Ladders, not so much. All right. Now that we're on top of our structure, we need to start laying the upstairs floor tiles. And we are just going to use our paving slabs for this, or the sports surfaces if that is the desired look that you're going for. I have a lot of different ways that I will go about picking my floor tiles. Now, the first thing you want to keep in mind when you're picking what floor tiles you want to use is the fact that some of these paving slabs are curbless and some have a curb. So the ones with a curb, if you look at the bottom of them and you change the frame color, that is what you will see underneath on the underside of the structure when we are done. Whereas this, what you see on the top, is what you will be walking on upstairs. So with the curbless, you're going to have different options of what can show up underneath than you will have if you go with a curbless option. So if we go and we look at, say, this one, a curbless option, when you look at the underside of this, it's just more stone. You would see this stone on the underside of the roof of your structure. So keep this in mind when you are choosing what paving slab you want to lay down upstairs. And I am going to be going with the composite decking board. Normally I would go with the curbless so that I could have the wood grain on top and bottom, but I feel like going with something different and doing this wood grain on the bottom this time. I think, let me double check. Yeah, we can go with that. And I'm going to go with the white decking up on top. So I'm going to grab my thing, and once again, we're just going to start in a corner. Now, when you're laying floor tiles, it's really easy to run into points. See how that just turns red? The reason it's turning red is because if you look, these 2 tiles are facing each other. If they were sitting like this, I wouldn't have any problem placing this anywhere on there. But when they're facing each other like this, it creates what the game considers a gap that you can't place directly in the middle. And this gap can happen sometimes in the weirdest places. It's just something I've learned to have to deal with the hitboxes of these bricks that I use. And one way that I've learned to deal with this and get around it is when I place my floor tiles up here, I will usually place them so that they go over the edge a little bit. And by doing this, this keeps them off center from the bricks I'm using, which should prevent any weird lineups. On more complicated builds, you can still run into the weird lining up issue that I was mentioning. But on a basic build like this, if you just bring it in slightly, you shouldn't have any issues lining it up. So you're just going to start covering as much of the upstairs as you can with your floor tiles. So once you have finished covering this, you're going to notice there's some spots that aren't covered. First, we have this edge over here. This is the edge we are currently working on, and I'm not going to put in half pieces here because eventually when the structure is complete, I'm going to have this go all the way out, and these are going to be filled in with more full pieces of flooring. So we're just going to leave that alone for now. But over here on this edge, this edge is technically as far as it's going to go. So I can come in and fill in the rest of this edge with a half piece, like so. And if it sticks over, that is okay. You can have it either stick over like this. It's not going to be incredibly noticeable as you make your stairs and move on. Or if you don't like that look, you can use a smaller size. You can come in and use this one. And that will keep it from going all the way to the edge. But it still looks nice. The choice is up to you, which you want to do. However, I am not going to be leaving mine like this for this build. I do prefer to have the more overlap area. So I'm just going to come back in and put those back out here. Like so. Oops. There we go. Now, this is a personal pet peeve of mine, but for whatever reason, these grains don't visually appear to line up as nicely. However, just rotating like that changes the appearance. So I'm just going to use some video editing magic, snap my fingers, and in just a moment you're going to see a completely rotated top floor so that you don't have to fast forward through all of that. All right? And we have a fixed floor. So we're going to head back downstairs. And what you're now going to do is you're just going to go underneath and you're going to pull the bricks that were under the floor that you laid closer to where you're currently working on your walls. And you're just going to do this to allow you to continue working on your walls. It can take a minute. This is definitely a much slower option than just buying new bricks and continuing to build. But again, this is my personally preferred method for various reasons. Do whatever you prefer. One final note before we speed this up entirely is make sure you do not remove a brick that you haven't placed a floor tile over yet. So in this case, those front 3 ones I don't want to remove because if I do, I have to replace them because they don't have a floor on them yet. So you're just going to make stacks close to where you're working on the stairs so that you can reach them a little bit easier. You move all your bricks over and then continue building. Once you've collected the majority of your bricks back up, it is just as simple as continuing the building process from where you left off. And if you need to take a second to gather more bricks that you hadn't grabbed or that maybe end up a little too far away because you've moved away from them, feel free to do so. Otherwise, just enjoy some music and build away. When you get towards the bottom of your stairs, you're actually going to want to come in and use a 3-tier garden stair at the bottom in your design colors. This will just save you a little bit of effort, energy, and technically your computer a little bit of resources. And you'll just finish the stairs like that. Now that our stairs are done, we won't need the scaffolding anymore, so go ahead and sell that. And then from here, we just need to continue building our structure the way we have been. So we're going to just put the music back on and continue building. So I have reached the end of the row that attaches to my last support column. And technically I could finish this column up, which would finish this row, and call my structure good. I do have this other foundation out here that I was planning on doing in like an overhang. But looking at how many bricks I have left and just thinking about my overall structure design, I don't think I'm actually going to bother doing that. So I'm going to sell these so that I don't worry about filling them in. And then I'm just going to finish up this column. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to go upstairs and finish it from upstairs. And I come up here to finish it for a couple of different reasons. A, it keeps me from having to do something weird or funky with the other bricks that climb up here to be able to finish that column. And B, it keeps me from having to, say, buy a scaffolding or ladder that I'm just going to turn around and sell anyways. So I'm just going to come up here. And if you notice, as I move these bricks up, what I did was I just shifted them over one. What this does is this allows me to be able to see the brick underneath it while still giving myself a platform that I can place the next brick onto. And that allows me to finish up here. So that is our column. I'm going to take a step back so that you can see. Normally I wouldn't have jumped off because our next step is going to be finishing that upstairs, but I wanted you to be able to see what all we've done. It's very normal to have some leftover bricks here. We're going to worry about those in a little bit. Nothing to worry about for now. All right, now let's head back upstairs and finish up our upstairs floor. So we just need to pull our paving slab that we're using back out and just finish the floor the same as we did when we came up here before to do the first part of the floor. Finish that. Now we're going to come in and finish this other edge over here, just like before. And voila, we have a finished upstairs pool deck. Now let's add a railing to this thing because we certainly do not want people that are coming up here to enjoy tanning or something to fall off. So I like to start my railings at the top of my stairs. I know what size railing will need to be here. It very rarely will need to be any other size. So I'm actually going to start here, and starting in this corner will allow me to wrap it all the way around, hopefully in one mostly continuous fashion. And my goal is to end on this edge. And the reason I like ending on this edge is because it's really forgiving where I end the railing at if I end on this edge that's over the stairs. And the one important aspect that I like to do when I am doing my railing is I add an extra piece of flooring here for the first piece. Now, you can use any fence or decorative wall or freestanding screen or any of those that you want to make the railings. However, I honestly use I have no idea how this is supposed to be pronounced, but it is spelled P-A-T-I-O-M, that style fence when I am doing railings. And the reason I use this style fence is because it is the only style fence that includes this very narrow fence option right here, which this happens to fit perfectly on those full-size stairs that I'm using. So this is my default railing option, and that is why. Well, you're going to come in and you're going to grab your railing in whatever design color you want, and you want to get that corner. So when we bring it off of the stairs, we're going to end up sitting basically, you want the post. I'm actually going to show you with just a regular post. Ideally, you want the posts to sit right here. Like, this is kind of the ideal post placement on these blocks. Sorry, these bricks. Now, the reason I say ideal is because if this is kind of in your mind as the ideal, this allows you a bit of leeway where you can go, oh, let me put it here or here or here or kind of anywhere around that little ideal spot and still end up with a walkway that is easy to navigate, as well as something that looks like an actual railing. So this isn't like the only spot you can put it. This is just the ideal spot. And I'll need that post later, so I'm just going to leave it there for now. And I always start with the biggest piece that I can. I like to use the bigger pieces as much as possible. But I am not that great at figuring out exactly what railing pieces I am going to need in advance. So at this point, I don't have very many tips or tricks for you other than put your railing around the edge. So we're just going to put the music back on and speed this part up of the video as well. And if I make some mistakes trying to figure out what size railings I need, well, you'll get to enjoy seeing that as well. All right, once you have finished your upper railing, which if you noticed, I did have to do a little bit of adjusting on this side due to how the floor tiles line up. That's okay. You can sell that extra floor tile. And you're going to come over here and you're going to add the half fence to your top stair like so. And it is okay if it hangs over a bit. It is also okay if you see a little gap or something. Once you have the top stair one in, you're going to use the very narrow fence. And you're going to add it to the next stair. You're going to notice a small gap here. That's normal. It's because the game uses the hitbox of the upper square, not the lower post, to determine things. So you're just going to add your railing down your stairs. And I like to go to the point, I between 3 and 5 up, like stairs up from the bottom, is where I will usually stop my railing. So in this case, I don't want people to be able to walk up the stairs from this side. If this was like a real house, I wouldn't want that. So I'm actually going to be taking my railing down to this step here, so that when I restart the railing on this side over here, I am starting it on the same step for balance. And then I'm going to take my railing back up the stairs on this side, and I'm going to go until basically, so this, you could put a railing on this step, or not a railing, but this size fence post on this step. However, I like to finish off with just a singular post like so to complete my railing. There's no real point, even if this was like real necessarily, in filling this in. I mean, there is like small children could fall through there, but for the game purpose, I find that just bringing the railing up to this point works just fine. And that is our railing. That is a finished railing for our stairs and upstairs. So let's head downstairs and finish things up. At this point, it is now time to start selling the bricks that we do not need. So as a general rule, be very careful when you're selling things during structure building. It is super easy to get trigger happy and accidentally sell part of your structure. Or your hand could slip and you accidentally sell part of your structure. Or your teenager could walk up to you when it's almost midnight on a Friday night and you forgot that you let them stay up late on Fridays. Or maybe you just forgot that it's Friday, let's be honest. And it's dark because your younger child is already in bed asleep. And then the teenager touches your shoulder and you have a mini heart attack and almost die of fright, and then you accidentally sell a piece. Or maybe that last one is just me. Either way, you want to be super, super careful when you are selling things during structure builds because it is so annoying and time consuming to have to redo something. So you want to sell all of those bricks. But now I'm going to do something that actually kind of almost physically hurts my soul a little bit. I am going to show you what to do if you accidentally sell a piece of your structure that you need. So I'm just going to sell a piece of the floor here in the middle as if I sold it on accident, and I'm going to show you an easy way to rebuild it just in case it happens so that you don't have to panic and you can move on. I'm not going to lie, that hurt a little bit to do. So if this happens to you, just come in, grab your single bricks like you normally would. Does not matter what color or brick style you're using because you're just going to end up selling these. Build it up to 5. Hop on top. Our goal is to ride these up into where we need to go. And you're just going to place these under you, kind of bringing yourself up through the hole until you have a brick basically right where it needs to be to replace your missing floor tile. So it's really easy to fix, but it's still a pain in the butt. So I do highly, highly recommend that you take care while selling things because you do not want to accidentally have that happen to you. Okay, so now let's take a step back and admire your own handiwork. Congratulations, you have just built a structure. That was a fairly simple structure build, but it is actually done now, and I think it's looking pretty good. But let's just do the last few little bits that I'd like to tell you about. All that's really left now is selling your foundation tiles. Again, be careful selling these. You can accidentally end up selling something important if you're not careful. Thankfully, with these being the foundation tiles, accidentally selling one is a little bit easier as you can fix the problem with a lot fewer steps with it already being on the ground. So just sell these. Okay, so there is a red foundation tile back there that I can technically reach, but this does happen semi-often when building structures. If this happens to you, all that you have to do to get this foundation tile out is pull it out. And then when you put it, you don't want to sell it quite yet. You want to kind of put it back so that it's about halfway under where you need your column to be. So you could slide the piece back into place properly, and then you can sell the foundation tile. We can now go grab the pool that we want to use. Let's see. I use this one on my demo one. Let's use this giant one here. And grab your colors you want. And you just find where you can place it. You might need to adjust things slightly, just like where you're standing as well as where the pool sits. There it goes. And I like to kind of just do a little walk around to just double check things. So see, it's pretty close here. With it being this close back here, I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and push it back into that corner so that I could better utilize these spaces here. And when you're happy with the placement, go ahead and dig the hole and place it. And you have a pool under Cabana now. And you can go ahead, and what's really nice about this is when you go to add your pool decking around the pool, because we utilized the foundation tiles, we are able to slip our pavement tiles underneath our structure, which does make surrounding it the way we want a little bit easier for us. Because otherwise you would have to try to fit like a half piece in there. And if you run into an issue like this, like, oh, I really want to put a piece there, there's not letting me, all you got to do, pull it out, lay the piece you want right where you need it to go, and then you slide it right back into place. Like so. And you can just continue on creating your beautiful new structure that you have built. And there you have it. You have a pool with a nice little structure over top. And what you put around your pool and upstairs is, of course, entirely up to you. Thank you so much for joining me on this first structure demo video that I made. I know it's a really big video, but I really hope that you can find something useful in it for your own builds, or that you at least enjoyed it. If you have any questions about this demo or want to request something for a future video, leave me a comment below. If you found this useful, I would also really appreciate a like on the video. And if you ended up using anything like this in one of your builds, take a picture, put it as a comment, something. I'd love to see it. I would love to know that what I do is being utilized by other people, if they are indeed utilizing it. Or if you just enjoy it, feel free to just leave a comment saying, hey, I enjoyed it. Either way, next week I should be doing another guided tour video, but it may end up being another tutorial, since this particular video ended up taking a little bit more time and energy than I originally anticipated. Either way, I hope you join me again next week. In the meantime, just put on some music, build away. Bye. Post-editing me here, just to say that there will actually not be a video next week due to how large this video was. My editor and I look forward to bringing you a video on April 8th or 9th.